Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome. My name is Olivia and I'm a type 1 diabetic of about 20 years. Now today I'm talking about my follow-up to the Omnipod 5. I went over my blood results with my doctor and I wanted to come here on YouTube to share with you guys concrete evidence to support whether I think Omnipod 5 is a good decision for diabetics or a bad decision for diabetics. So let's get right into it. For those who did not see my first video, I talked about the Omnipod 5, how I put it on, and my previous experience with the pump, the pros and the cons. I will leave that video linked in the bio below if you want to check that out. So to follow up, I had a few people ask me about doing a video about my blood work and A1C results from the Omnipod 5. So I've been on the Omnipod 5 for just about 6 weeks now. Just had blood work done and my follow-up doctor's appointment to go over with my endocrinologist my numbers. So here we go. Let's do the drum roll on the box, of course. So my A1C back in November was 6.4. And that was something I was always really proud of because 6.4 is actually considered pre-diabetic for an A1C. So I was really proud to be a type 1 diabetic with that low of an A1C. So now, on the pump for about 6 weeks, my A1C went up to 6.9. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, when I first saw that, my heart stopped. I was like, I haven't had that high of an A1C in so long. And I felt really disappointed and defeated. And I really wanted to rip the pump off at that very moment because the whole idea of the pump in my mind was to get my A1C lower because, right, we're almost told as diabetics that the lower your A1C is, the better off you are. But let me just say I was wrong. So I talked to my doctor yesterday. I had my doctor's appointment and I expressed my concern to her about my A1C. And she broke it down for me. She broke down to me the hard numbers. First off, as a preface, she explained to me that just because you have a higher A1C doesn't mean that you have less control of your blood sugars. She explained to me that my sugars before going on the pump were like peaks, triangles, and she was explaining to me how much of a stress and toll that takes on your body. Especially because for the past few years, I've been pregnant twice, and being pregnant diabetic puts an incredible amount of stress on your body to begin with. So I had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. So she explained that 53% of the time before the pump, my sugars were in range. Now remember, I have the Dexcom, so she has all of this as concrete evidence. So prior to pump, my sugar was in range between 80 and 180, 53% of the time. And now, being on the pump for 6 weeks, according to Dexcom, my sugar is in range 68% of the time. So according to my target range of 80 to 180, my sugars are doing better. Next, let's go into the very highs and the very lows, because anyone who's diabetic knows that keeping your sugars realistically between 80 and 180 is damn near impossible unless you're following the lowest carb diet or unless you have voodoo magic. Everyone knows that you're going to have high sugars as a diabetic and you're bound to have low sugars too. It's just part of our lives and we just have to go and accept it. But I'm going to consider anything above 300 or anything below 60 as my low. So above 300, my sugar was high before the pump 9% of the time. 9% of 24 hours a day, my sugar was above 300. Now, being on the pump, my sugar is considered very high, above 300, 2% of the time. And that can obviously account for the fact that I eat, and once you eat, your sugar goes right up just because, you know, we can't starve ourselves. So there's that. So my sugars went from being very high 9% of the time to being very high now 2% of the time. And then lastly, I'm going to go over the lows. And I saved this for last because I think this area needs the most attention. So as a side note, to me personally as a diabetic, I've always struggled with very low blood sugars. It has happened where my husband has had to come home from work to find me in low blood sugar spells. It's happened multiple times in the night when he wakes up to find me in a pool of sweat, unconscious, has to get me help. It's happened multiple times. It's happened a lot of times, especially when I was pregnant. And she had explained to me that my sugar was very low 4% of the time. 4% of 24 hours, my sugar was considered very low. Mind you, that's below 60. So between 60 and 80, that was, another number in itself. But since being on the pump, my sugar has been below 60 0% of the time. 0. It went from being very low 4% of the time to 0% of the time. And she explained that the reason my A1C has risen is not because I don't have good control, it's because my sugar is not spending an extended period of time in that very low state anymore. My sugars are more like a flat line, which is what you want from your A1C, which is what you want from your body. You want your sugar to not have to go through all the roller coaster rides. You want it to stay steady. So the pump has helped me get my sugars steady, which, I knew going into this doctor's appointment that my low sugars did contribute a great amount to my A1C, just because I know that before being on the pump, my Dexcom would constantly beep at me after working out in the middle of the night if I didn't eat as much as I thought I would, constantly beeping at me all the time. And I'm the stay-at-home mom to 2 toddlers, so just imagine how crazy that could be for a type 1 diabetic caring for 2 little people, having Dexcom beep off at you all the time. But to digress, to get back to the reason for my rant, is the Omnipod has decreased how much my Dexcom beeps off at me. It has made it so my husband doesn't have to worry as much, that I don't have to worry as much, and that I don't have to worry about a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old trying to get me to have low blood sugar spells, because I can't imagine that world. But I wanted to go on here with you guys and explain what my doctor had said about the Omnipod. And this isn't just my opinion. It's not just her opinion. This is all concrete evidence. And I am not being financially backed by Omnipod to talk about my blood sugars. I'm not being backed by Omnipod to promote their product. I'm just letting you guys know here on YouTube what it personally did for me and my family. And I really just want to help other diabetics out there get better control of their sugars. I've noticed that since being on a Dexcom and since being on an insulin pump, the Omnipod, that the diabetic community is so much larger than I ever thought before, ever. Especially when I'm at the gym or I'm out in public and people see that on the back of my arm, people will come up to me to ask questions about it. Or if, they know someone who's diabetic, or maybe they're diabetic, they're looking into it. And it's made me realize that the information out there for people to get, knowledge on these kind of devices isn't that great. Otherwise, they wouldn't be walking up to complete strangers like me asking me questions about it. Which, henceforth, I'm here on YouTube, so hopefully some people can look this up on YouTube, get some answers, and then figure out what's the best direction for you and your family. And the last thing I wanted to touch on, because I did bring it up to my doctor yesterday, is in my previous video, someone had commented that you can take the insulin out of the pod after you're done with the pod. Now, to preface, I was taught by the diabetic educator that once you put insulin into the pump, when you're done with the pump, you cannot then take it out. So you can take it out. You can take it out by inserting a needle tip into where you put the insulin in the first place. That's true. I did try it. But before trying it for myself, I wanted to check with my doctor about the reason I was told I couldn't do it. And what she had explained was that insulin is okay kept in the refrigerator or at room temperature, but at higher temperatures, like a 98-degree human body, temperature, it can denature over time. And she said that through the 3 days of wearing the pump, it won't become less effective. But on the 4th, 5th, 6th day, if you keep reusing that insulin, eventually the insulin will be less effective. So do with that information what you'd like. I'm not going to tell you to put insulin in your new pump, to reuse it, and I'm not going to tell you not to reuse it. You do whatever you are most comfortable with. But I wanted to bring that knowledge to you as well. So thank you guys very much for checking me out today. Please give this video a big thumbs up, and I look forward to following up with you guys some more about more of my blood sugars and my experiences with Omnipod 5, Dexcom, and all those great diabetic devices. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.